Director Morgan Tiniba, Army candidate, the intimacy coordinator Missy Maramara, psychologist on set Rainier, Ladic, and from the cast, played Indo, JB Rodriguez, Asia, Francesca de la Cruz, the actress played Beyonce, Bunny Kadag, and Paula Romero played Lourdes. Morgan, I guess the obvious question is, Morgan? Yeah. I guess the obvious question is, what does this white man want in the Philippines? No, but I guess more seriously, I mean, how does a Dutch filmmaker end up making a film in the Philippines?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. Is there enough seats for everyone? If someone wants my seat, that's also okay, well, I do have some roots in Southeast Asia. My grandmother was born and raised in Semarang, Java, and I traveled quite extensively in Indonesia specifically and a few other Southeast Asian countries. Also for work, at some point after my feature debut documentary, I was asked to do camera work for another director who wants to make a movie about a group of boys from the slums of Manila who were taken out of the slums by an NGO called Stairway Foundation and offered rehab, schooling and therapy for a year. And over the course of a year we followed that process, so we got really close to the intimate stories of these kids. And those stories formed the basis of the story for the Garden of Earthly Delights. And even though I think the documentary turned out really well, I thought it was very important to highlight the post-colonial aspect and the systemic problems that I felt were at the core of the problem, and that most storytellers tend to either overlook or ignore. And actually pretty much all my work has revolved around similar topics of exploitation and inequality, distorted power dynamics, and especially post-colonial power dynamics. As I think a lot of people in the West don't acknowledge enough that the wealth that they've accumulated is actually based on theft and oppression.
I mean, given that, I'm sure you must have felt some hesitation as a European to be dealing with such a thing, especially if we're talking about post-colonial subjects.
Yes.
Why is it a white filmmaker that gets to talk about these topics?
Well, yeah, of course, it's painfully ironic that I have relatively more resources and privilege. I mean, I'm really all for people telling their own stories, so to say. I understand that's also a very big topic right now in the art industry, the film industry in general. There's a big focus on well, identity politics and who gets to tell which story, and everyone's supposed to tell their own story. But I think there's a few problems there, or potential pitfalls, is that I think that we are essentially all interconnected. The fact that a part of my ancestors accumulated all this wealth is because we have a direct connection. They took resources, and to this day, the West is taking resources from the global south to enrich themselves. So it is, in the end, not just one person's story, it's also my story in a way. Yeah, I wish that the people from the slums of Manila, or like all the poor people in the world, could tell their own stories. But in practice, that's very difficult. So we set out to collaborate. I mean, I don't think it's just my perspective that we've shown here. This is really a collaborative effort, and I hope that you see the incredible talent of all these people. And it's not like I came in and I was like, okay, we need to do this and that and that, and that's it. No, it's like almost a decade. It took almost a decade to write and produce this film and to release it into the world. Throughout the entire process, I was questioned a lot. Army was like a guardian of her culture and her people, and I think she did really well. You need to do your research really well, and you need to take your time, and you need to respect people when they show you your blind spots. So yeah.
Yeah, Army, maybe you can talk a bit about your role in protecting this production, I guess, from going the wrong way.
Yeah, I've been part of this since 2018, since the development of the screenplay. From the very start, it was clear when Morgan and the Dutch producer Frank Hoeve approached me that this is something like a true collaboration, meaning onboarding me and some script consultants on board. I remember like writing my application for Film Development Council of the Philippines, stating that if my country or my countrymen would be exploited, I will be the first to raise my hand. And it happened several times. Let's not sugarcoat things. This, I shared this last night. I didn't know that this would be the most challenging project that I've produced, but it also turned out to be the most heartwarming, fulfilling project, humbling. Maraming adjectives, lots of adjectives, but yeah, that was my stand. That's why we also, like, it's not just me who can talk, who can raise issues. Cast members here or crew can also attest to that it's a dialogue and not just like Morgan said, they come here, I want to do this, please deliver. It's not like that. That's why it's a real a real co-production. It's not just like line services here in the Philippines.
Stas, kumusta? How are you feeling ngayon na panood yun na?
Well, of course, it's very overwhelming. It first premiered actually in the Netherlands last March in the Movies That Matter Film Festival, and it's a very different context, I would say, because it's a Western audience, and the reality is they're not aware of this, and it seems unbelievable to them that they're also part of this systematic inequality and colonization still going on. And but here, of course, mabigat syempre kasi hindi siya bago sa atin. It's not new, everything that we see in this film. But I also asked, actually, when I was auditioning kay Morgan, why are you doing this film? Kasi he is a white man, and I was also very protective of my country in that way. But I got to work with one of the most empathetic and caring crew members, our intimacy coordinator, Missy Maramara. We had a psychologist on set, and there was close collaboration with all of the cast members. We got to say our boundaries the moment we got casted. We were the ones who were able to dictate what kind of scene, how the scene would go, and we were briefed for all of it. It's all choreographed, and we felt that we were safe, and we felt the need to tell the story because, again, it's not new, and as much as it is ironic that a white man is doing it, it's an opportunity to really not look away with these problems and really see it for what it is, because hindi siya bago, and we get to reclaim our stories as well and give as much respect and humanity for these people that are very real and hindi lang siya something to look away from.
Anyone else from the cast?
Yung akin pong nararamdaman na napanood ko po ito ay medyo ano lang po, nagulat. Pero sobrang saya ko po na yung pinaghirapan namin The Garden ay mapapanood nyo. Hindi po kasi siya bago. Like parang totoong buhay na nangyayari siya. Hindi natin siya nakikita lang dito. Nakikita natin siya sa labas. Yun lang po yung masasabi ko. Sobrang saya ko po. Proud na proud po ako sa cast ng Garden. Lahat po. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa kanila lahat na nagawa akong gampanan yung role ko na dahil lang din sa kanila. Pinalakas po kasi nila yung loob ko na safe ako na hindi ako mapapahamak sa gagawin ko, kaya yun lang po. Thank you po.
Rainier, Missy, baka you can talk about a little bit about your role on set. I mean, this seems like a very sensitive set. Yeah, no, like it feels, and like we don't hear a lot about Filipino productions with on-set psychologists and intimacy coordinators. It's starting to happen, but still rare. Yeah, maybe you can talk about this.
And hello po, I'm Rainier Ladic, also known as the One Psychologist. Bali po, no, the kids receive full psychological services. Starting po sa screening ng mga potential actors wherein yung mga potential actors po is they have received psychological assessment, the parents, the kids, and other actors na interview din po sila, and then at the same time, psychological tests po na were administered. Then once nung nakapili na po ng cast is that nagkaroon po ng intervention bago po sila sumalang sa pinaka-shoot, which is a form of behavior modification so that they will be ready po no, doon sa work na gagampanan po nila. And then during the shoot is that the kids, they have received pre and post debriefing. Then at the same time, itong psychosocial support po na ito is that I have seen the need na hindi lang po tumigil sa mga actors. Pero I actually have offered it no, to everyone, to every cast and every staff po no, ng The Garden of Earthly Delights. Then at the same time is that after the shoot, post-shoot intervention po na was applied or was administered to these kids, wherein we dealt with character derolling, separation anxiety, and how they can move forward with the valuable lessons that they have carried on with their experience po dito sa Garden of Earthly Delights.
Hi, I'm Missy. I had the great privilege of working with all these amazing human beings. The reason why I'm here is because of Cheska over there. She was auditioning for Morgan. I worked with Cheska when she was a student. And they were auditioning, they were talking to each other. I think he was auditioning her and she was equally auditioning him in the process. And he had given her his vision and she said, well, do you have an intimacy coordinator? And he said, not yet. Do you know anyone here? And she said, yes, Missy Maramara. So, and they were very open to it. It was a very interesting process, actually. They got connected to me through Bong, their acting coach. No? Tapos, nakita kami sa Wildflower. Wow, how bougie. Diba? Bougie. Tapos, medyo ano ako to be honest, I wasn't sold on it. The feeling was poverty porn, right? Recolonization. Parang, I was like, tinignan ko yung pinipresente ng PowerPoint presentation. But I wanted to talk to them in person. Because if Bong was in it, you know, and if Filipino producers were in it, then there must have been something to it that at least deserved a conversation. So I met them, and they had this warm and, you know, this warm and open and sincere disposition and a beautiful vision, but I was still not sold. Right, remember? And I asked one of my bestest friends at the entire universe, a colleague of mine in Ateneo, a fellow professor, Hide van der Wal, and I had them talk to them. they sat down, remember, in Cubao, usap sila. Siyempre, the Dutch na sila ganon. Sige, kasi there are some things that you can only say in your own language. And while I did not 100% trust them, although it felt like I could, I needed for my bestest friend in the whole wide world to talk to them and vouch for them personally. You know, because when I first initially told him about the project, he's like, poverty porn yan. And then when he talked to them, and I was going through the script, and I was like, there's something here that I really, really find compellingly beautiful, a story that needs to be told. Because I want to look away from it, and I know I shouldn't. And after speaking with them, I'm a little naiyak remembering it. He said, I think you can do it, and I think you should, said he did. And I was like, okay. And then we had that blow by blow, scene by scene, parang, what are you expecting here? What do you want to see here? I don't think that this can be here. And I don't think that's beyond my boundaries as a person, also as an artist. And it was really collaborative, that conversation. From pre-production, through the filming process, even in post, you know, they were already back there and we were still having conversations. And the kids and I were, kahit kami meron akong separation anxiety. And it's tough. It wasn't easy. I keep telling them it was like every IC's nightmare and dream. Nightmare because of the scope and the responsibility of that kind of work. Which I didn't do alone, by the way. Jenny Hamora helped me. She was with me as my IC. And a dream because of the scope of the work. And also of the people I worked with. The kids were wonderful. The other cast members were wonderful. Every single human being there. Of course, it wasn't, but it wasn't bereft of conflict. But we were all on the same page of wanting to tell a story that people need to be aware of. We are all culpable. We are all complicit in this injustice. And I think that's something we have to come to terms with. Thank you.
I'm sure you all have questions. I'll open up to the audience now, if anybody has questions. Please come closer.
Hello, my name is Rome de la Cruz. Congrats, kasi sirang-sira yung araw ko. Kasi it was so, So I'd like to ask about, first of all, yung sex scenes, no, if that's appropriate to ask, and the visual of, you know, presenting a lot of, for a lack of a better term, there was a lot of dick presence because typically the penis is not really shown, like. Usually breasts are mostly shown with regards to cinema. For example, in Sinisilip, there were no dick visuals at all. So I'd like to ask about that.
Yeah, why so many penises, Morgan?
Am I the right one to answer that?
You wrote it, Morgan.
Okay, so where should I start? First of all, I would say that for the character of Asia, that's her everyday reality. She has to do that work. She has to let those penises enter her to make a living. And even though it's tough, she actually does it out of love for her brother and her, you know, she's trying to work on a better future. And I think, again, it's a privilege not to have to look at that. So, it was always a discussion, are we gonna show this? There were many times that we thought, okay, maybe it's too much. We're gonna shock the audience too much. People are gonna think it's like porn or it's there for sensationalism, but that wasn't the intention. I personally, well, I can't say throughout my work, but I have a lot of, I've thought a lot about how sex is portrayed throughout media. And I find it ironic that the internet is flourishing on pornography, but only when the window, like when the curtains are closed. And in art, it's still a taboo to show, especially erect penises and to show naked body parts, which I think is a legacy of Puritanist thinking, which is exactly like what we're trying to critique. Not religion in general. I respect people's religions, but well, Christianity has been weaponized by the colonizers to impose a binary gender system, and I hope that you feel that throughout the film. That's a very important theme, the theme of pre-colonial gender diversity and love and resilience. And we wanted to show all of that, like it's part of the human body, and it's part of the experience of our characters. This whole topic of sexuality is like, it's about these white men imposing their sexuality on colonized bodies. So, maybe Missy, yeah, or other people.
I think when you show the breasts, that's a male gaze thing, right? Like, wow, boobs. And when you show the penis, ugh. Right? Which I think is a very male gaze response as well. And to show it equally in its, you know, in the industry in which was, it serves their functions as a trade, right? Then there's an equality to that, a powerful statement to that, but we must look at both. That said, there were no real erect penises that were shown, because that's not legally allowed. So we had to use prosthetic penis, if that helps.
Let's say it very well said. Questions over here. Sorry.
Sorry. Maybe I would just like to add that because it's a reoccurring question of why it had to be that explicit, and if I really agreed to that kind of scene, and I guess I just wanted to share my perspective on that. And because that kind of scene is not new, and I think na it's one of the most searched genres in pornography, and it's quite ironic that that is the male fantasy, and that's why a lot of white people are going here, and it's almost like an open secret that, and it's fantasized, and then once you see it for what it is, that it's a kid that is trying to survive, but is pushed to this kind of work. I find that she is still doing her best to survive, and she's doing whatever she can with that. And I think that was a very important thing to show in our film. And as much as it was very difficult, I find that these sex workers, I didn't want to have any shame in portraying that aspect in their life, but I also wanted to show that that is just one part of their life, and that they're still human beings who go home, they clean themselves, and they love the people that they're trying to provide for. And so it's, yeah, I think I just wanted to really speak on that, na hindi lang yun yung nangingibabaw, na she is still a whole person, and to all sex workers.
Sex work is work. Let's go.